All right, let's talk about a plant that has probably humbled even the most seasoned plant lovers out there, the Calathea. You know them, you love them for those incredible leaves, but they are notoriously dramatic. But don't worry, today we're going to crack the code using a survival guide that came straight from the community after one owner sent out an SOS.
And this, right here, is the heart of it all. This quote from Reddit user Miss Carr, who hasn't felt this? That feeling when you think you're doing everything right, but your beautiful new plant is just slowly checking out. It's a special kind of plant-parent desperation. So before we can get to the fix, we have to really understand what was going wrong. Let's put on our detective hats and break down exactly what was happening with this plant, because that's what set the stage for the community to come in and save the day.
Okay, so let's look at the evidence. The plant's only 2 months old, and it's already losing leaves every single week. Now, the owner's routine, it seems totally reasonable, doesn't it? Watering once a week, misting to keep things humid, using tap water. That's what we do for a lot of plants. But this is the whole mystery of the Calathea, right? The very things that work for your other plants can be a total disaster for this one.
And this is where the magic happens. The community of experienced owners jumped in, and right away, they started spotting these little, well-intentioned mistakes that were hiding in plain sight. Let's see what the investigation turned up. So this is basically a list of plant care myths when it comes to Calatheas. Watering on a strict schedule? Nope. The community says to water when the plant actually needs it, not when the calendar tells you to. Misting those gorgeous leaves? Turns out that's a huge mistake. It's like an open invitation for mold and bacteria. Using tap water? A big no-no. These plants are super sensitive to all the stuff in there. And the real kicker? Keeping the soil wet was actually drowning the roots because, and get this, the symptoms of overwatering look almost exactly like the plant is thirsty. All right, enough about what went wrong. Let's talk about how to make it right. The Reddit community didn't just diagnose the problem, they laid out a whole new care code for Calathea success. And it all starts with the #1 most important thing, water. You've got to get this phrase into your head. Forget wet, forget dry. The golden rule, the perfect state for Calathea soil, is the feeling of a wrung-out sponge. It's damp, it's holding moisture, but it's not dripping, it's not soggy. This simple little analogy is an absolute game changer. So how do you actually get that perfect wrung-out sponge feeling? Well, user Bathilda_Bagshot gave us this brilliant 4-step process. You water it slowly and all the way through until it starts coming out the bottom. You let it drain, and then, this is the pro move, you actually tip the pot to get that last bit of trapped water out. You can even use a paper towel at the drainage hole to wick out the final bit of excess. This is how you prevent root rot, period.
And just as important as how you water is what you're watering with. Like we said, Calatheas are divas about their water. They just can't stand the minerals and chemicals in most tap water. The community was unanimous on this. Rainwater is the absolute best. If you can't get that, go for distilled or at least filtered water. Just please, ditch the tap water.
Okay, next up, humidity. Remember how the owner was misting? Well, that's not a very effective way to raise humidity, and it just makes the leaves wet and unhappy. What these plants really crave is a consistently humid environment, somewhere in the 55 to 60% range. And your average home is not that. A small humidifier placed near the plant is going to be your best friend. And what about light? Well, this is a classic Goldilocks situation. They need a good amount of bright light to really show off those patterns. But if you put them in direct sun, you're going to scorch those beautiful leaves. So think about a spot near window, but maybe with a sheer curtain to diffuse that light. And of course, none of this matters if the foundation is wrong. It all starts with the soil. You need healthy roots, and healthy roots need to breathe. That means you need fantastic drainage. The community's go-to recipe is pretty simple. About 60% of something that holds a bit of moisture, like peat or coco coir, mixed with 40% of something that creates air pockets, like perlite or pumice. That lets the excess water just flow right through. And if you want to take your soil game to the next level, here's a little bonus tip from the comments. Throw in some worm castings for a little natural, gentle nutrition, and add some orchid bark for even more of that amazing drainage. Okay. So we've just gone through this very detailed, very hands-on care plan. Now I want you to hold on to your seat because we're about to flip this whole thing on its head. Hidden in that same thread was a fascinating and kind of hilarious counter theory.
I'm serious. After all that careful, meticulous advice about watering and soil and humidity, What if the real secret to making these plants happy isn't about doing more? What if it's about backing off and doing less?
And there it is. This comment from user H4Z89 just nails this whole other philosophy. The idea that Calatheas actually thrive on a bit of neglect. That the more we fuss over them, the more we check on them, the more they just seem to resent us for it. It's a powerful lesson, right? Sometimes overcaring is the real enemy.
So we've got the super detailed science, and we've got the just leave it alone philosophy. How do we square that? Well, let's bring all this amazing advice together and forge it into one clear, practical strategy to bring your plant back from the brink. All right, let's boil it all down. Here is your 5-step emergency comeback plan. Number 1, stop misting. Just stop. Immediately. 2, ditch the tap water. Switch to rainwater, distilled, or filtered. 3, water based on how the soil feels, not what day of the week it is. 4, make sure that soil is light, airy, and drains like a champ. And 5, get that humidity up with a humidifier. And I really want you to take this last part to heart, especially if you're looking at a pretty sad plant right now. Even if it loses all its leaves, don't throw it out. As long as the rhizomes under the soil are healthy, these plants can be incredibly resilient. If you give them the right conditions and a whole lot of patience, they really can make a full comeback. So here's the final thought I want to leave you with. We love to call these plants divas, right? We call them fussy and dramatic, but maybe that's not quite right. Maybe they aren't trying to be difficult. Maybe they're just really, really good at communicating exactly what they need, and all they're really asking is for us to stop, pay attention, and just listen.